then we can finally move on to setting all of this up in our actual level. So this will give us a chance to go over everything again and repeat everything we've done and actually apply it to a practical example lighting up this level. So this is what I've done earlier with the atmospherical lighting. I'm going to remove all of that for a moment so we have a clean scene. The first thing we will do is set up the sun, so the directional light and the ambient light, and then we will take a look at setting up the actual sun effect itself, so the lens flare and the light shafts, and after that we will move on to some light functions. We will have water caustics being cast from this water surface up to the ceiling, as well as having a broken light inside a corridor, so a couple of animated lights using light functions and matinee. And after that we'll do the majority of the lighting in the level. And we can also have a look at my normal workflow, my organization of lights and so on. So to begin with, we need to set up the directional light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a directional light, a dominant directional light, that one. I normally place these in the middle of the level about, because it doesn't really matter where you place it. So I pick the middle of the level up in the sky, and I tend to increase the icon size a bit, just to make sure I can easily find this. So if you go to display, draw scale, and you make it 20 or so, or 10, you can increase the size of the icon. So the sun is located over there, where that actor is. If you turn on real-time preview, you can see that as well. The sun is actually there. So considering that's the sun, I'm gonna try to match that angle by rotating the light. This seems to work. And then we will set up the brightness and the color. Quite bright, say about 3 or 4, or maybe that's too much because the rock gets quite white here. Say 2.5 maybe, that's better. Then a color. The color I used in the other level I wrote down, that's 149, 191 and 255. This is the color used in the other level, in the original. And that kind of works. Then what I tend to do is, because right now it uses distance field shadows, if I were to rebuild this shadow would get a bit more blurry than this. So what I normally do is I enable real-time shadows on a dominant directional light. And you can enable real-time shadows if you go to cascaded shadow maps and you set a whole scene dynamic shadow radius to about 1000 units, 1500 units. Like so. I can show you what it would have done without that, and if you would have rebuilt this. Then you would have gotten quite a blurry shadow, like this. With it enabled, so say 1024, you get a sharper dynamic shadow. So without it, you fall back on distance field shadows, and with it, you get a full dynamic shadow. So if there were a tree here, for example, and the tree would be moving in the wind, that would actually cast a dynamic shadow on the ground as well. The number here is the sharpness. You raise it to 4. Not going to do much in this level, but this improves. You can see here as well the jaggy edges. It improves the quality, but it comes at a major performance cost. So this is really quite heavy to do. So I usually stick to a low range, low radius, 1024, and only 1 for number of whole scene dynamic shadow. What's the rest of the property called? Cascade. You can see this 1024 stands for the range. So if I move away, the shadow fades over in the static shadow. So that's the sun. Then I usually do the ambient light afterwards. I'm going to use a skylight here because I'm used to using that, and it's also nicely going to illuminate the indoor area. You don't have to do that though. It's also just fine to use the newer feature here, the environment color, like we've done earlier. It's up to you, but in any case, I'm going to use a skylight in this case. Again, I place it somewhere in the middle of the level in an easy to find location. The icon is really small as well, so I'm gonna scale it up. The draw scale, could have done that here as well. Like so, and then in the original level I had a brightness of 0.2, and then I also set lower brightness to 0.2, and I had a light color of 255 indeed, and the first one 230 and 174. And that same color I also use over here for the lower color, 230, 174. This gives a bit of an ambient, as you can see, so nothing is pitch black. Lighting is seldomly pitch black, so it softens out the scene a bit.